Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Abdus Salam Science Fair, How to Build a Ball Rocket by Hala Mansoor, age 10, grade 5, and school Juliet PS. Introduction. Rockets use reaction engines to create a forward thrust. Newton's third law of motion explains why these engines work. This law states that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. In the case of a rocket, the action is the engine ejecting mass at a high speed backward. As a reaction, the rocket is pushed forward. This experiment uses the same basic principle as real rockets to hoist an empty bottle into the air with a payload attached to it. As the rocket is launched, the pressure created by adding air to the bottle pushes water and air out at a high speed, propelling the rocket upward. Purpose. The purpose of this experiment is to find the optimal amount of water in the bottle rocket with air pressure and payload as constant to launch the rocket to the greatest distance. Hypothesis. The hypothesis is that the lightest and heaviest rockets will travel the least amount of distance. This is because the lighter masses will have less propellant and the heavier masses will be too heavy to be lifted and launched efficiently. I will test this hypothesis by filling my rocket with 1, 2, and then 3 cups of water and measuring the distance the rocket will travel. The table below will be used to note down my observations.
Okay, so now I'm going to be explaining and showing the materials that we're going to need for this rocket launcher. So first we have our bicycle pump that will pump air into our rocket launcher. So as I said before, rockets use combustion to put a forward thrust up into the air. But instead we're going to use air pressure and water to put a forward thrust up into the air. This is our rocket, and we're going to put it on the rocket launcher like this and pump air to create the air pressure. Next we have our payload bay. Rockets are used to carry payloads into the space, and we will fill this payload with sand to simulate the payload that our rocket will take up into the air. It will go on the top of it like this. Next we have our funnel to fill up the cup with water. And then we have a couple of volume marks to measure the water and then pour it in. Okay, so I've added color and fins to our rocket. Our hypothesis is that the optimal distance will be reached with 2 cups of water, but we're going to conduct 3 to 4 experiments to prove this hypothesis. So first we're going to add approximately 1/4 of a cup of sand into our payload bay. The amount of sand will be the same throughout the whole experiment. So now we're going to add 1 cup of water into our rocket. Now we're ready for liftoff. Okay, so now I have set up my rocket and I'll put 30 psi into it.
Okay, so now I'm going to be sharing the flight data readings for the first 2 flights. By filling the rocket with 1 cup of water, it flew 97 feet, and with 2 cups of water, it flew 92 feet. The constants were the air pressure, 30 psi, and the payload, which weighed 20 grams. The possible variances were the airspeed, may have picked up during the second flight, and the air pressure, which could have been a bit more in the first flight. Okay, so now I'm going to be showing the flight data readings for the third and the fourth flights. By filling the rocket with 3 cups of water, it attained 170 feet in distance, which was the highest length achieved. And by filling it with 4 cups of water, it went 138 feet. And the constants and the possible variances stay the same. Conclusion. We observed Newton's third law of motion through this experiment with water and air as actionary forces and rockets forward flight as a reaction. The original hypothesis was that the optimal distance achieved will be with 2 cups of water. The actual flight data showed that the optimal distance was achieved with 3 cups of water. It was also concluded that air pressure, not the amount of water, was a bigger contributor on how much distance was achieved. Jazakallah.